The brother asks, what if I don't believe in God? Well, I could ask the same. I'm not a liberal progressive, but the liberal progressives are forcing their views of the world onto me. If we allow Muslims to support unchallenged terrorist networks against Israel, those same people will be conditioned to support ISIS. Guys, if you want to hear my next topic, take a step forward, because I'm not going to project and we need to create some space at the back, so take a step forward.
What's the topic, Bob?
So my next topic, guys, is about the kind of protest that we're seeing in favour of terrorists in the UK right now. The Palestinian protests that we are seeing in the streets of London right now must be seen for what they are: the legitimisation of terrorism and militancy, the legitimisation of groups like Hamas, Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad. The reality is that the fight that is going off in the Middle East right now is not a fight between two states. It is a fight between a state and a terrorist network. And protests and the violence that we saw outside of the embassy of Israel is a protest in favor of that terrorist network. The terrorist network of Hamas and Hezbollah. These terrorist networks and the legitimization of their support in the streets of London will bear fruit in the UK. You see, if UK society is willing to accept that the Muslims of the UK can support terrorist networks in Palestine, how much of a jump do you think it will be for those same Muslim communities to support terrorist networks in the UK? Can you not see how easily it is to go from celebrating and supporting a terrorist network like Hezbollah that has a catchphrase, after Saturday comes Sunday? Now think about what this phrase means. What is the Sabbath of the Jews? Saturday. What is the day of celebration for the Christians? Sunday. So Hezbollah says, after the Jews, the Christians. If we allow Muslims to support unchallenged terrorist networks against Israel, those same people will be conditioned to support ISIS, to support Boko Haram, to support other terrorist networks that attack the UK. How long will we have to put up with the weakness of liberal progressives and their thinking, who excuse and justify support for terrorists against Israel? Is there any coincidence, any at all, as to why the British state won't stand up against Boko Haram and the Fulani herdsmen who are killing thousands of Christians in Nigeria? Thousands are dying in Nigeria because they are Christians at the hands of Islamist terrorists and their Fulani herdsmen allies, and the Western governments do nothing. Do you not see that tolerating supporters of terrorism here means that you end up tolerating supporters and terrorist actions in other countries. Do you not see that the British government turned a blind eye to Turkey mobilizing and transporting terrorists from Syria to Azerbaijan to fight against Armenia? The British government is complicit in supporting terrorism. Do Black Lives Matter? Not according to the British government. They only matter in America. They don't matter in Nigeria. They don't matter in Ethiopia. They don't matter in the Sudan, where Janjaweed terrorists wage war against Christians in South Sudan, whilst the British government does nothing. Christians, stop looking to others to defend you. Stop looking to weak Christian leaders who are cowards, like the Pope, who talks about the fraternity of brotherhood of all faiths and can't even organize his own church to stand with Catholics who are being butchered in the Philippines, or to support Catholics who are standing up to Hezbollah in Lebanon, or to support the Assyrian Christians who are fighting for their survival against ISIS, and the Iraqi government that wishes to make them second-class citizens. Christians of the laity, organize yourselves from the ground level up. Any questions? What? You're going to have to shout, bro. Can't hear you. So the question is that the land was the land of Israel given to the Jews by God. Yes, it was. But this does not justify Israel's persecution of Palestinian Christians or Messianic Jews in Israel who are treated as second-class citizens or denied the right to worship in the temple of the Holy Sepulchre. It does not justify the destruction of the Palestinian community, of which the Christian Palestinians are an integral part. The land may belong to Israel, but that doesn't give Israel license to do whatever it wants. Any other questions?
Sometimes sounds like you want the British government to be more supportive of Christians, but are you saying I'm not really respecting that because you're saying because they're not Christians, that's
Repeat the question, Bob.
So the brother is asking me that I sound like someone who thinks that the British government should do more to help persecuted Christians, but that I don't believe that they will, and therefore the church should do it itself. I couldn't summarize it in a more succinct sentence myself. The British government, if it was consistent to its own values, should do more to support persecuted Christians, but they won't. And I'll tell you why they won't. Because they don't want to buy into a narrative that pits one religion against another. Because they are scared of inflaming tensions amongst different communities here in England. And they are sacrificing our brothers and sisters upon the altar of multiculturalism. But we Christians, who are a multicultural society made up of blacks and whites and Asians and Native Americans and Aborigines and Russians and Slavs and Saxons, we can organize ourselves All it takes is imagination, courage, and determination. Three things that are lacking in our bishops and our priests and our pastors. Well, don't wait. Organize yourselves. Stand up as an individual. Form your own community of solidarity, your own group of solidarity. Link up with other groups of solidarity. Form a network that has no central organization but responds as a society, because as a society we are following a common narrative of Christians standing up for our brothers and sisters. Any other questions?
Keep away from division, please.
Any other questions?
We're actually tending to be more passive against what you can see as the primats making.
I can't hear you, bro. Speak up.
Sorry, we're the most passive against the other primats making voices, which are secularism and Islam. We don't assert ourselves. We should never assert ourselves violently, but we don't assert ourselves hardly at all.
Christians, the brother raises a point that we Christians are altogether too passive. You see, societies are not guided by the masses. That is a myth. Societies are guided by that minority of activists who are willing to push their agenda. And we Christians have accepted the détente of the Enlightenment, the rapprochement of the Enlightenment, that we Christians must reduce our faith to something that is entirely private and not public, that is without any political vision or expression. Your leaders have accepted that the only legitimate expression of the Christian faith is to be an NGO, a charity. It is a lie. We Christians are a people. We are not an NGO. We are a community with our own history, with our own culture, with our own doctrines, with our own values, with our own traditions, with our own beliefs, and with our own political vision. So we must devote ourselves to God, not simply in piety through prayer and devotional Bible reading and devotional meditations, but we must devote ourselves to God through political activism dedicated to the triumph of the church over all of her enemies. Whether those enemies express themselves in politics, economics, society, or culture. The teaching that pacifism is a moral obligation upon the Christian is a lie. Christianity does not teach this doctrine. It is a modern heresy that has come out of the Enlightenment. Christians, pacifism is a moral choice, not a moral obligation. Activism for the church is a moral duty.
Amen.
Your question.
Do you believe in separation of state and religion? Sorry, do you believe in separation of state and religion?
The brother asks, do I believe in the separation of state and religion? I say emphatically, no. State and religion mix, because you cannot separate religion from politics. Politics is the exercise of influence, authority, and power. These things you make when you go into Starbucks, when you buy from Google. These are political decisions because Starbucks and Google push political agendas. You have to be a political organism. You are political, but a Christian does not accept that there is any part of their life that is not subject to the discipleship of Christ. And that means, brothers and sisters, that you must be politically Christian. You must follow a Christian political narrative, and that means guiding the state by the doctrines and the values of the church.
What if I don't believe in God?
The brother asks, what if I don't believe in God? Well, I could ask the same. I'm not a liberal progressive, but the liberal progressives are forcing their views of the world onto me.
It's true.
So why is it that the secular liberal progressive can tell you all that you're guilty of a thought crime if you believe in what the Christian faith teaches is the family, but you can't allow the Christian faith to guide on issues like abortion?
No.
Can I ask you your end game? Because are you saying, I'm completely in agreement with you in saying that Christians should be able to legitimately assert their beliefs into society in general and into politics, into lawmaking, and their decisions should be taken on board and valued, and Christians should actively assert them into the marketplace, if you like, for want of a better word.
Question.
They're not doing so. However, you also use the word dominion and dominating. Do you actually believe Christian culture should return to a place where it normally dominates the marketplace, or are we just?
Okay, yes, I get the point. So as a Christian, do I believe that we Christians should be working for the dominance of a Christian worldview in aspects of culture, politics, economics, information sharing, the arts, as well as a number of other key themes of society? The answer is yes, I do. Because the alternative is that if you don't dominate the heights of society, your enemies will. And if they dominate the heights of society, it will be bad for Christians, just like it was in Spain, just like it is right now in Egypt and Nigeria and Pakistan and Malaysia and Indonesia and Burma and China and North Korea. Occupied Armenia, Somalia, Ethiopia, if we as Christians do not stand up for our people, no one will. If we allow our enemies to dominate the matrix by which we rule or ruled and are governed and have our being and move in society, we will be the worse off for our weaknesses.
I entirely agree.
Christians, one second, Christians, we must rediscover a vision of Christendom, a medieval concept, not repeating it without criticism, not repeating it in an unfiltered way, learning from all of its mistakes and failings, but working towards a united Christian confederacy of nation states that are united by Christian doctrine and values. Any other questions?
I agree with you pragmatically that that's the
Question.
we're going to have. Yeah, sorry. But is that what the Bible is actually telling Christians to do? In the early church, was expecting them to be bright lights in a persecuted scenario. Has that changed? Because you could say that when Constantine legitimised Christianity in the political sphere, the church actually cooled off somewhat. So is God looking for that scenario where there is a politically strong, politically dominant church, or is he asking for Christians to be strong within themselves, strong within their values?
So I get the point, bro.
Yeah.
So, as Christians, is what I am saying lining up with the Bible? And on this point, I'm going to close because I recognise it's raining. So this is going to be my last question, and I want to thank you all for your patience and for your kindness and for doing this right. You know, speak, ask question, speak, ask question without heckling. So I really want to applaud you all for your courtesy and your politeness. But I'm going to just deal with this brother's point, because there is a myth amongst Christians that what I'm saying is unbiblical. Well, I'm going to prove that it's biblical very quickly. 1, Jesus Christ, when he came, said that the kingdom of God is at hand. And when he taught us to pray, he said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. Everyone hear that? On earth as it is in heaven. Well, in heaven, does God rule or does man? God rules. So on earth, God should rule. In heaven, does God have armies? Yes. So on earth, should God have armies? Yes. Christ went on, the apostles went on to teach and preach to the leaders, to the kings of their time, in the hope of converting them to the Christian faith. Do you think if these kings had become Christian, that they would have gone, well, now I'm a Christian, I cannot be a king? No, of course not. They would have continued to be a king, but they would have been a king that is a Christian.
Thank you.
So that means, brothers and sisters, that Christians can rule. And should a Christian king not rule according to his Christian faith? Should he rule according to his Christian faith? Paul wanted to go before Caesar, the emperor of the Roman world, to preach the gospel. If that Caesar had become Christian, should he have given up being Caesar? No. Should he have governed as a Christian Caesar? Yes. And that is exactly what happened with Constantine. So yes, brothers and sisters, it is biblical to seek and to pursue Christendom, a Christian political entity. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless.